Hi, I'm Damara. I'm one of the founders of LoveActionPDX, and today I'm talking with Dara and Lorie about what they are doing to show Jesus' love and oppose Christian nationalism in their own unique way. Um, so I'm really excited to be able to have and share this conversation because I really do believe that as Christians, we can do something. We don't have to wait for our church leaders or paid staff to get together and tell us what to do, but that we can be the church. Um, so, uh, and unfortunately, I think right now a lot of our church leaders aren't really engaging with what's going on. So I think that there are a lot of Christians um, that are trying to figure out what can we do. And so I'm really excited to be talking about what you are doing. I think it's an excellent example of like a cool, creative, unique way that comes out of who you are as people um, to be the church. So thank you so much for being here and kind of itching to jump into it. Are you ready?
Yeah,
Okay, great. So first off, who are you and how do you know each other?
you first. So Lori and I go to the same church as a Jesus Church in downtown Beaverton, Tigard area, and we signed up for their small group because it was closer to our house. But we quickly became friends. Her husband and my husband are super similar. We're pretty similar. So it was a lot of we had a lot of fun talking to each other, and yeah, and then we both started processing sort of carefully, of course, because these conversations kind of can be hard to get into when you're in a small group, is to know where people. Um,
Hmm.
I, it became obvious pretty quickly that we were all pretty troubled by the direction, particularly, the evangelical church in America or non-denominational churches, anything like mainstream Protestant slash evangelical seems like it's being actively corrupted by something that I don't recognize as the gospel, and is having real repercussions for people of color and people who are oppressed in various ways. And so, yeah, we just started talking about that. Yeah, I suppose that's if you have anything to add.
Oh, yeah, I think only thing I would add is like I'm Lori, and yeah, when Dara and I and our families got together, I think we connected pretty quickly. And my background is not in, I don't have any like theological background in terms of training. I'm a researcher. And I like the Bible and I love Jesus. Historically, I've been involved in things are that are focused on refugee populations, immigrant populations, just because
Mm,
that's my background. My family they were refugees and they are immigrants here.
mm,
And so when I when stuff started happening here in the country that looked like it was headed in not the right direction in terms of oppressing refugees and immigrants, I got pretty concerned, and Dara shared a lot of that concern, and we started talking and thinking about what can we do as a group.
mm,
Yeah, and I really, as far as I know, we'll get into this a little bit later, but I really felt like Lori was really quick to action in a way that really resonated with me and galvanized me. So, like, when we heard that there were going to be some impacts to refugee organizations, Lori was quick, like 4 days later, let's have a bake sale on the weekend. And I'm like,
mm.
so that's
Nice.
kind of exciting when you find people that are just willing to try things.
Mm,
Um, and yeah, I think that that was sort of the energy that started getting some of this conversation going.
mm. Nice. Dara, I'm just curious, what's your time frame for when you take action? Are you, Laura, you're like, all right, let's do something, like just naturally in your personality or like in your time of
Really
life kind of thing?
unpredictable. Like I can, for example, I now have ducks. I saw things online. I was like, wow, ducks seem like a great thing to add to the garden. And within a couple of weeks, I had 5 ducks. So
Oh, okay.
sometimes I'm really quick to action. Sometimes, though, and oftentimes with things that are really important to me, I tend to delay because then my perfectionism kicks in. It doesn't matter
Mm,
it doesn't matter to the world how many ducks I get or whatever. Actually, it's easier for me to take action with things that matter less. The things that matter more, I can get stuck in analysis paralysis because I'm like, okay, I researched this thing. What about this thing would be better? And will this be better for everybody? And yeah, so I can find that can be challenging. I could go years without doing something. It's really sad. Yeah.
But when you do something, you do it so well. Like for the bake sale, we need a flyer. And it's like, can you make a flyer? And she did, and it was really beautiful. I was like, oh, you do good work.
Cool. You're a good team. It's nice. So, can you just tell me a little bit more real quick about the bake sale? Like, how did that start? How did that go? Where has that led?
I woke up on a Saturday morning and learned that funding had been cut for refugees in our country. And I was so distressed that I just couldn't settle down until I had an idea to do something about it. And then I mentioned the bake sale, and Dara was fully on board. A bunch of my friends in the community were on board, and it felt like a necessity, I guess, for me personally to get involved in this thing that was just really distressing me. And so we had a bake sale, and we invited other people to volunteer to bring their baked goods, and people brought their baked goods, and we had a sale, and we raised, and that first weekend that we did this, I think we raised about $800.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was, and then we were like, oh, well, that was fun. Let's do it again. And now we're up to $5,000 after a couple months of doing these bake sales on a monthly basis.
Wow. So every month
You
get together. Okay. And you said you reach out to your community. Is that like your neighborhood? Is that like your group of friends, or who are you reaching out
Yeah,
to?
both. So I have a group of friends that live in my neighborhood and our community group. We all just worked together. These friends in the neighborhood are not part of my community group, but thankfully we all have worked really well together.
Yeah, and some of that background was that Lorie is very gifted in hospitality from my perspective. So like she would already done a lot of like getting to know people in her neighborhood far beyond I think what most people do. So like when we started this thing, Lori's like, oh, I know, like it's like I don't know, 3 or 4 couples really well in the street that immediately pitch in. So I think that was part of what made it work. And then, my little community got excited. I have a bunch of friends that are excited about healthy eating, so that's about what I can. Like, oh, Dan can make good brownies. Dan will make brownies. Like, yeah.
Oh, cool. So then, so you've been doing monthly bake sales, and is the plan to keep that going?
Yep, the next one is on May 17th.
Okay, nice. Okay, great.
Yeah, I just want to
What neighborhood are you in? I don't want you to give away your home address, but I'm just like curious.
Right by Center Street Park. And I will say we learned a lot about the process along the way. We started as a garage sale and bake sale. And it was great, but we realized it was taking a lot of energy to do the garage sale portion. And we're like, okay, we need to figure out how to pare this back so that we can have a more sustainable model. So we're like, okay, let's for now just do bake sale and no garage sale because that takes a lot of prep work. And so it's kind of evolved to just the bake sale. And yeah, a monthly basis, and we are by Center Street Park.
Yeah, and as part of our pitch for the bake sale portion, we had another family join our community group, and Teresa's a professional chef.
Nice.
Yes. So there's some good quality stuff coming out for the bake sale now because Teresa's also really passionate about helping people.
Oh, that's cool. So you had I love that community wanted to get involved, and that a bake sale could make that much money that quickly feels like the people who are coming want to get involved and do something, and to be able to have it going regularly that people can keep in like whatever small way pitching in to help out, and it adds up. Like
And I feel like some of the basic concept then from the bake sale that led us to thinking about the larger events that are looking at is like marrying activism and enjoyment, like having service that the community will be excited about. Everyone wants an excuse to eat cookies. Like
I don't need an excuse. I love cookies. But it's nice when they're there, when they're baked
right.
for me. That's really helpful.
Most people appreciate the fact that, like, particularly post-COVID, it's like a community builder. So I think that also kind of got us thinking like, oh, is there more that we could do? Are there other gifts that we could bring to the table? So yeah, it's been just sort of a slowly evolving journey, but I personally feel really edified by it because I remember the last time some of these things were happening, it was just very depressing to have the constant influx of negative information and then not know exactly what outlet would be good, and to again get caught in that kind of analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
And so I think that this has been really good to feel like, oh, hey, might be small, but it makes a difference for somebody. It will. And to commit to that kind of focus for the next period, I think has been really good for me.
It helps other people who consume, like the people who are buying the brownies. They buy more brownies when they realize, oh, this is going to help some refugees. Yeah, and keep the change. Uh,
Oh, nice.
so at our first bake sale, like we didn't advertise that it was really, we didn't intentionally advertise that this was for charity. And when we became more vocal about that, people were more engaged and wanted to more.
That's cool. That's a really helpful tip for
Yeah.
people to keep that in mind. So you mentioned it a little bit, but you have been doing the bake sales, and now you're working on a new project, kind of like as things evolve. So tell me, what is Mercy Wakes?
So it's in an evolution process, but our basic idea was to take the heart of what we wanted to do, which is draw people around their better impulses to empathy and to celebrate that, and then try to raise money for organizations that are right now and have received a lot of cuts. And try to see how fun we could make it, and then also engaging the community with their gifts. So we started talking about what gifts we had in our small group. I'm a communications, well, I'm a content vice president, and so I have some experience with putting on events. And I'm also a musician. Lori's a violinist, and we had a lot of, and our other new friend Teresa also had a desire to be an artist as a child, and so we're like, what if we can use the arts to draw people together and put on a kind of a fundraiser? So what we're thinking of doing currently is getting our participants, so getting people that are musicians or artists who are passionate about the need to support refugees and immigrants, and drawing them together, having people pick specific pieces that emphasize either like a way in to have compassion for somebody in need, or like a composer who was a refugee or an immigrant to try to put a spotlight on the issues, and then have a fundraiser where people can come and listen and donate to these organizations. And then we're also hoping to have a baked goods component along with our everybody just, hospitality, eating, have a good time. And we're also hoping to have childcare available for people. So it could even be like a date night for parents. We're in the category of parents where it's hard to find time to do things fun together. So this has been our idea, is to basically use the arts to wake up the impulse to have mercy on your neighbor. And our inspiration was really the story of the Good Samaritan, where the answer to who is the one who is your neighbor is the one who had mercy on him. So yeah, sorry, I just talked for like a few minutes straight, but that's the Cliff Notes version.
Yeah, that was great. I'm curious, I would like to hear your take on what is the need for mercy and empathy right now? Like, I feel a big need for it, but kind of how would you describe that as a response to what you're seeing?
I think as there have been a lot of economic challenges in the world and more conflict around resources, whatever you think the driving forces are for that, I just see a lot more people concerned with how can I safeguard myself and the people I understand to be my community, which is nothing new under the sun. Like that has been around and is around, but it feels like it's been kind of coalescing in a really intense way in our country. And that pulls us away from our Christian core, which is to think of other people as people God loves and wants to invite in his family. And then I think that some of that has been that the church has felt challenged. The church in America has felt challenged in its identity and in its place in society. So in my view, there's been a heresy that has emerged, which is that in order for Christianity to prosper in our nation, we need to make sure our nation is identified with the Christian faith and that we win at everything, and no matter what the cost to other people or other communities. And that's been really sad for me, especially as a white person who is very white, as you can see. Just really not how I want my faith or people that are remotely in my community to represent me. And so I really feel like there's a need for people in the church to say, hey, this is not what Jesus is about. You know, whatever our beliefs about different cultural changes or moves, we need to actually come together around the love that God calls us to in a really decisive way.
For my one, I think that was great, and I completely agree. There's another side to this too, where I feel like there are people in my neighborhood and community who are wondering, like, what can I do to help my neighbors, the immigrants who we know live down the street or that go to school with our kids. I think they're living in fear, and we've seen that enrollment in schools is down, and kids are not going to school because their families are scared, so scared that maybe they're even moving away, and not attending school. And so having an event like this will allow people to have an outlet, to find a way to help their neighbor, to be a neighbor. And so there's that piece, and there's also a piece for the artist. Whereas as they're creating, they are also able to participate in this movement of mercy and empathy in the community. And I think it's both giving to the community in terms of our neighbors who are living perhaps in a lot of fear, but also our community who wants to give, somehow show that love and empathy toward the other.
Yeah, and it's yeah, when you were talking, Dara, it those were a lot of new thoughts for me, Lorie. So I'm like, oh, that's fascinating. I'm so glad that you said that. Um, I wouldn't have I wouldn't have thought of that. And Dara, when you were explaining it, it made me think to the tension that there is between Christianity and nationalism. And like white Christian nationalism says, oh, they're the same thing. That's no problem. We'll just have Christianity fit around this, and whatever my nationalism is, we'll just call that Christian or give like Christian language or an excuse for it. But really, there's such a tension between this is me and mine, and that's you and yours. And if that in any way makes me uncomfortable or threatens me or takes away from whatever I think I deserve, then we need to get rid of you at for whatever reason at whatever cost. And it's fine because you're not part of our group. And that is so not Jesus's heart or way or his how he models for us what the church is. So
it's just not a Christian concern. Like you could have nations that are concerned with boundaries or who we let in, or in negotiating that in fair or unfair ways. But as a Christian, your heart needs to always be on the person who is suffering, and you need to be holding people accountable, no matter who's in office or what they're doing. It's like we know that God's heart is he, in the Old Testament, he's talking about you need to take care of the orphan, the widow, the foreigner among you, or else, you can take your festivals and shove it, essentially.
I gotta find that version. I like that. Yeah, and he's also, I love that he gets to the point a lot, which is great. God is very cool and very loving, which is awesome. But yeah, like kind of either way, mercy is core to who we are as Christians. Like whoever that falls upon, like whoever is in need, whoever is vulnerable, whoever's hurting, whoever's scared, like people living in fear, that just breaks my heart and really motivates me to do something too. Because that's just, even just the fear of families being torn apart is just a terrifying idea. So, um, yeah, I'm really glad.
Sorry, I'm like interrupting you.
Okay.
I think that people don't realize it's one of those things where the enemy presents this really tantalizing thing along with fear. That's the way the enemy works. It's like, hey, all this stuff, terrible stuff is going to happen unless you kind of betray your Lord
Mm,
attitude. But you know, this terrible thing will happen. Also, imagine how awesome it will be. Like the ends will totally justify the means.
mm,
Whereas what we're called to do is to trust that God is in control and to draw close to Him. And what all of these heresies do, in my view, is they draw you away from the personality and the person of God. Like you cannot commit yourself to fear and hatred and draw close to God at the same time because He is the opposite of
mm.
those things. And so I think it's going to be a tragedy for all concerned because inevitably people are going to be drawn away from the living God, and other people will be driven away because they're going to be repelled by the actions of people that call themselves Christians. Um,
All around.
Sorry, I just ranted
Bad
again.
news bears. No, that's good. I think everybody who's doing anything or like really paying attention has big feelings. And yeah, I like hearing you talk. So, and that's what we're here for. So that's great. Yeah. Um, so it's for Mercy Wakes, you told us what it is and kind of the purpose of it, and it's still unfolding. So where are you in the process right now?
Right now, we're working on a formal proposal for a church where we'd really like, at our church, we'd like to have the first event at our church. So we're working on a date. And Lorie also is working on recruiting artists and musicians. So she's been doing a lot of that legwork. So we're recruiting people to see what kind of program we can put together and trying to work on the details of imagining what kind of like costs, both in terms of volunteer and financial it will take to put this.
Mm.
So we're hoping it'll coalesce over the next couple weeks. We'll have a clear proposal to put forward, and then we'll have a date shortly after that. So honestly, if people are interested, I would definitely encourage them to sign up for our email so we can continue to putting out information as it goes, and love to hear from artists who might be interested in participating.
Awesome. Yes. And I will link to that in the show notes so that they can sign up and subscribe. Both to, because the email subscription is both for artists who want to get involved and people who want to attend, right? Who want to be
Yeah.
kept up to date on when it's happening. Okay. Okay, great. So, um, how has, I think it's awesome that you're having it at church. How has it been working with the church on that?
Honestly, if although it was first a little sluggish to get a hold of people, I think that's typically, honestly, that's a roadblock that I would encourage people to push to see if they could get through because we had a few rounds of, oh my gosh, did they even get our email?
Mm.
Fine, church workers are overworked. Once we met in person, they were like, we've been wanting to do something like this for ages. Yeah. Oh,
Oh,
like it was a lot of excitement, which was fun for us to actually feel like, oh, this is being seen as a blessing and not as a wait, what are you doing kind of a thing.
You
yeah.
were being persistent and having a great attitude in spite of all of that. It's yeah, important to have somebody patient on your team.
Yeah. I'm so I'm curious to if if it for some reason didn't happen at church, do you have a backup place, like a backup location?
Not currently. I mean, we've talked about like, Shakespeare in the Park, we could do a park event.
Mm,
The community center. Honestly, though, with all of our connections to churches, there are a number of other churches we could probably approach. And indoor in a nice space is pretty ideal for music, where outdoor is not as as friendly, especially if we have actually a couple concert pianists who want to play.
Oh,
And we're wanting to accommodate the instruments and the voices.
yeah. So having it at a church, having it indoors is a big deal. So,
I think churches are realizing they have as a really great resource. I know the church across the street from us does like events all the time with symphonies and stuff where it's like when you have a nice space where it's set up with sound and refreshment and bathrooms, it can be a really great way to bless your community by hosting events.
yeah, and I think that's really encouraging, like for me, and I think for other people to think, okay, maybe even if my church isn't leading the way in this, maybe there is space. Maybe they could still help. Maybe they have a desire. And so maybe email a couple of times and don't give up. So that's really encouraging to think of, okay, what access to resources do we have
Mhm.
as a group? I think that's awesome.
And Dara, you mentioned the concert pianist, but I always want to put out there that we're open to many different styles of music,
Yeah.
and art, and we'd also love to hear from poets, if
Oh,
anyone reads poetry. So yeah.
Yeah, we would love to do some spoken word poetry.
oh, yeah. I was hoping you were going to say that. I don't do that, but I love it. So sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so that's another group of people we really encourage to join. Anyone who has like wants to express themselves artistically on this topic is more than welcome. And I also would like to say, especially thanks to Lori's and in our neighborhood, we have a lot of people who aren't Christians but want to work with us. And I feel like that's been really beautiful and encouraging to me personally that they're willing to see, oh, you guys, no, you guys do want to separate yourselves from this movement and we want to help you and appreciate you in that process. So
Mm.
it's been really great.
It's like a lot of support and positive
Yeah.
encouragement and yeah, so I guess I'm curious now, is that what you were anticipating? So Laura, you're already pretty good about hospitality and inviting in your neighbors and getting to know each other, but were you anticipating a lot of support or you also it's awkward to bring these conversations up with people. So I'm just curious, like before you started reaching out, what were you expecting?
Oh, well, I grew up in Nigeria, so I didn't grow up here. And so sometimes I feel like I just don't know how people are going to react to things as a baseline. And I have a lot of hangups around cultural translation, like how I translate, and especially in this current climate, like knowing that a single word can send someone off the deep end. So honestly,
Mm,
I did not expect this as much of a positive response as we've seen, and it's been really encouraging personally.
yeah.
I think I did kind of anticipate that people would want to get involved. I mean, what I've seen on my end is like this burgeoning need to do something
Mm.
and to be able to involve like people's talents and passions with this desire to do something is I mean I think I kind of saw it as an untapped like where we could help people meet that beautiful need. So I think I was a little bit more hopeful.
Yeah, no, yeah, let's do this. I'm like, are you sure?
See, you make a great team. Oh, good. Um, so I'm curious too. So it's still in process. You'll hopefully be able to have a date soon at church, and then be able to really like get the ball rolling on nailing down like concrete pieces. But are there any like hurdles as you look from like now to what the end is? Are there any hurdles that you're anticipating, that you're getting ready for, that you're like not sure about, and you're like, all right, God, I need you to do this or anything?
Um, so I know, like, as a musician, I did my undergraduate in vocal performance. Like, anytime you put on a performance, it's you're gonna have hiccups, like, the sound, making sure people can come, people are gonna get sick, like, so all that I think I just kind of expect, and it doesn't worry me too much. And then also, as someone who's put on events on a shoestring budget because I work for a small nonprofit, I think I have a little bit of concern, like wondering what the church's expectation will be, like if they'll think that this will be a very produced event, whereas I'm with Lorie and I not having a lot of resources and then also wanting to inspire other people to do the same. I hope that we can create something beautiful, spending very little money and just using connections through volunteers and a lot of prayer.
Mm.
But despite the fact that I've done fundraisers before, I haven't done anything like this where we're just like starting a community from scratch, like saying like who are all like just sending out that signal. Like
Mm,
so there's just some uncertainty in the unknown, but really when it comes down to it, I feel like this is about who God is, and in some ways it's an offering to God. So I'm hopeful that I'm going to be able to release that personally and be like, Lord, all our efforts are just wanting to acknowledge who you are, and you've called us to be an imitation of you. I think whatever happens, I'll be really happy to have done that.
I think what worries me sometimes is my attachment to the vision. So I have a pretty specific picture of what it's going to look like, and um, I think the challenge for me will be internal, of being able to flex with where this needs to go to be successful. So if we don't have white twinkling lights all over the place, it's gonna be fine.
That's like a bit, we have to have those. Yeah.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Yeah.
They make a little money off of us,
Yeah.
but like other than that, hopefully it'll be okay.
Oh, nice. Okay. Um, so okay, maybe just real quick. You're reaching out to artists. Is there anybody else that you're reaching out to, like, hey, we also need help with this? Like, I think the church has sound equipment, at least in some way, but is there anything that you're like, we need somebody to do this and this?
We did talk about that and we made a list. Like, honestly, one of the things that would help us is even if people are willing to stick around and clean up afterwards. So, like, cleanup crew would be amazing. And when you mentioned the sound equipment, we're hoping that we can find someone that can run sound, who's used to professional soundboard. So, that's definitely something that would be appreciated. And honestly, I find that with events like this, with my nonprofit, people shortchange themselves on their gifts. Like, I don't really have anything to offer. So really, I would just encourage people to email us. Like at mercywakes.org, sorry, wakes@gmail.com. And just tell us that you're interested in what are the kinds of things you like to do. And I feel pretty confident that we could find a place for people to be involved.
Okay, awesome. That's really helpful. I also just remembered, childcare. So if anybody wants to help with childcare.
That gets a little trickier because I would definitely want to background check people. But if you have people that are background checked through a church, particularly already, I think that's something that we could consider. I have a couple ideas. I have some connections through Child Evangelism Fellowship, and they tend to organize childcare for events like this. So I probably will defer to their judgment in making sure that this space is safe. I definitely want people to feel like their kids are not with a bunch of random people. They have all been background checked. So yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. See, I haven't organized anything with childcare yet. That's a really cool connection that you
Yeah.
have that. That's great.
Yes. So again, we're thinking of one of the ways of raising money at the event is raffling off particularly delicious and delectable things. So if someone has a particular gift creating something amazing, or even if they just want to bring brownies to share with the general pool of snackable items. Yeah.
Nice. Cool. So like bake sale items and bake sale and beyond, right? So like anything. Okay. Okay. Cool. That's good to know. Okay, so I'll have you've mentioned it a couple of times, but just say it real quick. I'll also have it in the show notes. How can people reach out to you? The email list, and then there's your direct email. Can you say those again?
Yes. It should be Mercy Wakes. So, the word mercy and wakes at gmail.com. And that's our email address. So feel free to email us there. And then we also have a landing page that I'm sure you'll put up where they can just sign up if they want to get regular emails on our updates. Those are the easiest ways to get a hold of us. If they're interested in the the big sales that are going on monthly, Lorie has an email address she's been using for that as well.
Yep. Lorie.ross@gmail.com. That's LORIE.ROS@gmail.com.
Awesome. I will put that in the notes too. So, okay, great. This has actually been a lot of fun. I feel like there's so many good little tidbits and encouraging pieces in there for people who want to do something on their own and trying to figure out what to do. So, that is what I was hoping for. I'm excited for what you are doing. I want to go. So, I am excited for that myself. I will be there. And just thank you so much for your time and for what you're doing.